Have you ever seen deaf people using sign language and you wanted to show them that you know the alphabet? Many years ago, I did. Even today, I will see when I see a deaf person in a department store, I want to walk up to them and ask if I can interpret something for them, whatever the situation may be. But oftentimes, I stop myself because I don't want to invade their privacy. One of the main points I'd like to talk to you about is communicating with deaf people. And I hope when I'm done that you will have some tips that can help you communicate with deaf people. One of the main points I'd like to point out is that it comes from a book entitled So You Want to Be an Interpreter. It's an introduction to sign language interpreting, and it's written by Janice Humphreys and Bob Alcorn. And it's ways to get a deaf person or a group of deaf people, ways to get their attention. You can flash lights at them, and this is very appropriate to get their attention. You can do that to get the attention of one person, or you can do that to get the attention of a whole group of people. Another way is to slap your hand on a table or stomp your foot on the floor, and they will feel the vibrations and they will know that you are trying to get their attention. This also is a very acceptable way of getting their attention. The third way is to tap them on the shoulder. This is usually used in informal settings where there's not very many people around, and you're just going to use this with maybe one or two people. You wouldn't do that to try to get the attention of a group of people. Another way is to wave your arms, and yes, I did say wave your arms. And you're also going to get the attention of hearing people because you're waving your arms around, and this is good in a situation where you are trying to get the attention of someone that's across the room, and maybe it's one deaf person across the room, maybe it's more, but you're not close enough to use any of the other methods, so you're going to wave your arms to try to get their attention. Another point I'd like to make is about physical space or physical presence, and maintaining eye contact. That is so important. When you're trying to communicate with a deaf person, it's imperative that you maintain eye contact, and you've got to be engaged in the communication process. One of the books that I used during doing my research was Interpretation Skills, English to American Sign Language. It's by Dr. Marty Taylor. In this book, she comments that eye contact should be maintained throughout the entire conversation. This is so that the eye contact and the facial expression, all along with the signs, all are used to communicate fully with the deaf person. And you should show some emotion on your face. If you're talking about something happy, then let your face show the happiness. This helps to give the entire message that you're trying to convey. Another thing that is a little scary for some people is personal space. Personal space is not as taboo in the deaf culture as it is in the hearing culture, because deaf culture requires you to be close up, especially if you are trying to communicate with a person who is deaf and blind, because you have to fingerspell every word. The last thing I want to talk about is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to communicate with deaf people. From my personal experience, everyone has always been very helpful, very accommodating. Anytime I made a mistake, they would correct me with constructive criticism and encouraged me to keep learning, because they were so excited that I was learning their language. And so don't be afraid to talk to a deaf person or to learn sign language, and don't be afraid to go up to them and say my name is, and spell out your name. So in communicating with deaf people, some of the things like personal space and eye contact, it might feel awkward, but just remember that's part of the hearing culture. Feeling awkward is part of the hearing culture, not part of the deaf culture. the same things, the personal space, the eye contact, all are essential for true communication to occur. I hope these tips have helped you, and I hope that you will continue learning. If you're learning sign language, I hope you will continue to learn it, and just don't be afraid to ask for help or to communicate with a deaf person. Thank you very much.